Good afternoon, team. I'm TJ Banasik with the Microsoft Sentinel product group. I'm joined here today by my colleagues, Ashwin Patil from our Microsoft Threat Intelligence Center Research and Development team, and Ron Marsiano from the Microsoft Sentinel team. Today's presentation is on the Threat Analysis and Response Solution. This is an offering that we released last fall during Ignite. We're currently in our third revision and really excited to show the community how this offering is used and how it aligns to our new Microsoft Mitre attack blade. A little bit about the solution content. So a solution in Microsoft Sentinel is a consolidation or domain-based solution which packages together a lot of different content into a single-click turnkey style deployment. So for this solution, we include two workbooks. One of them, which Ashwin will demo, is the Threat Analysis and Response Workbook. The second workbook, which I'll demo, is the Dynamic Threat Modeling Workbook. And the third component of the demo is going to be led by Ron Marsiano, which is the Mitre attack blade. So a little bit about the benefits of the solution. Why have we packaged this? What can you do within your security operations center or threat hunting team? How can this be a benefit to your organization? We have a few use cases that are common for this solution. The first is proactive threat modeling. So as you're building and maturing your security operations center or your threat hunting team, you're going to be looking to get the most return on investment out of your offerings. And this is one of our content packages that can help you mature your model and get even more effective at the work that you're doing. It's also very beneficial when you want to build a threat hunting program and you're going about that for the first time. So configuring alerts or building automations is going to be very effective, and things that you can do to flesh out your coverage to make sure that you are hunting according to the principles outlined in the Mitre attack framework. The third is incident response. So you're able to use this to move around Microsoft Sentinel to see an alert, investigate an instance, trigger an automation. So when you see a threat, understanding what the threat is doing, knowing that you have coverage, responding to that, remediating, and even getting stronger every time you evaluate or respond to an incident. And the fourth use case is very common for security consulting services. So our partners in the MSSP or MSSP space that are providing services are able to use these types of offerings to help partners build and evolve these models in practice. So this offering is an adversarial modeling, and what that means is we want to show you what the attacker is doing and how that is aligned to the Mitre attack framework. And we don't just want to provide a problem, we also want to provide you with a solution or a recommendation in order to address that. And so that's where the defend component of the model comes in. When I'm being attacked, what do I need to do to respond to that and also to harden my posture? And so the benefits are reference alignment to the Mitre attack framework. Ron is going to show our new Mitre attack blade and see the true power of how you can use Microsoft Sentinel to align your posture to that model. Throughout the workbooks, we have deep links integration. So when we provide insights in these workbooks, we want to move you around the Microsoft and third-party portfolio so you understand where you need to go, and also just to keep that as a consolidated experience within these workbooks so you don't need to authenticate to a lot of different tools or open up different tabs. Just be able to evaluate within that domain-based solution of threat hunting and modeling. And we talked about analysis, response, and remediation to threats. So we're going to switch over to the demo-based component. I'm going to provide the first overview of how to get started with this solution. So you can see now I'm in Microsoft Sentinel. In the overview blade, we deploy this from Content Hub. So I'm going to roll down the left. Under Content Management, you'll see our Content Hub. This is our domain-based collection of different solutions and content packages that you can deploy into Microsoft Sentinel. For this offering, search threat analysis in response, and you'll see this is the first one that comes up. When we select that, we'll have the options to deploy. Being that we already have it deployed for this demo, it'll say update. For yours, if it's the first time you've used the content, it'll say install. And so selecting this option will provide everything that we need to get started. We'll tell it which workspace that we want it to deploy in, set a few common custom configurations. Generally where you want it to deploy is about all you'll need, and then review and create. Not going to do it now because we already have it deployed. Once you do that, the two workbooks will appear in the workbooks blade. So I'll now run up to workbooks. I'll go to my workbooks, and the first one that we'll see is the threat analysis and response workbook here. And for that portion of the demo, I'm going to turn it over to Ashwin Patil from Mystic R&D.
Thank you. Let me go in quickly. All right. Hopefully you can see my screen. So thanks, TJ, for showing the deployment. So one of the first workbook that I'm going to talk about is the threat analysis and response. So this particular workbook has 4 components. We'll go each of these in detail. So you can navigate those sections from the top as a tabbed view. And then so basically the purpose of this workbook is basically give visibility into your current data source coverage and then Microsoft Sentinel coverage of the analytics that is provided out of the box from our public GitHub library. And also the Microsoft also has like a built-in Microsoft suite of security products such as Microsoft Defender for identity, Microsoft Defender for cloud apps, and a bunch of others, right? So all of those built-in alerts, you can get an insight of these via this workbook, right? We have also provided a notebook, which is nothing basically is an automated notebook that you can run through and then pass out some of the built-in YAML templates that we have, and then create this structured data that you can basically access via the AQL interface, right? So the output of this notebook is going to be a CSV file that you can basically access via external data operator. So one of these examples that you can see here is basically this data set that you can access via a native KQL interface within the Sentinel interface. So one of the advantage of accessing this underlying data is like you can create your own dashboards and your own views if you would like. Going back to the first tab here. So the first tab is basically nothing but just providing a snapshot of your current data source statistics. So there's nothing actionable here. It just provides a snapshot of the number of events that are coming for each of these providers, right? So we have these bar view on the top, the pie chart on the left, and then also a free text search bar that you can search for the events from this table, right? So let's switch back to the second tab. So the second tab is going to give an insight of our current out-of-the-box Sentinel content that are presented here. So as you can see here, like you can get like different sets of insights. The first insight is basically categorizing our content into analytics, hunting, and fusion. So and then drilling down further from all of the contents can be categorized into the Mitre tactics as well as the technique level. So since the techniques are like to drill down view, it will be good to just visualize the tactic level that you can navigate from here, right? The last one is the platform view. So this is an enriched view. So each of the content, or like if you have seen the Mitre attack objects, so each of the tactics, techniques, and data source can be categorized into high-level platforms. So if you would like to get an insight into a specific platform, this is something that you can get via this underlying data as well, right? Each of these content is also hyperlinked to the Sentinel content. So if you'd like to go just navigate to that, you can do that. The next tab is basically covers the detection platform services. So as I was talking about, you also have built-in alerts from Microsoft suite of security products. If you'd like to get an insight into these, so this is the view that you can navigate to. Again, the Azure Defender or Microsoft Defender has its own resources, so you can get also a drill down view of each of these services or alerts for each of these services here. The last one is the Mitre attack heat maps. So again, Ron is going to talk about the much more native integration within the product blade as well. But this basically gives a static insights into the similar interface that you may have seen into the Mitre Navigator interface. So the backend layer file is automatically generated and then dumped into our GitHub file. So you can always access the updated file via this workbook. So it is always pointing to the updated file. So this is the similar interface that you can get. The only difference is like the view is categorized into the per platform level rather than data source or technique level. Right. So let's switch back to TJ to talk about the second workbook.
Outstanding. Thanks so much, Ashwin. Really great overview of how to get up and running with the threat analysis and response workbook, as well as where to find those resources to set up the analytics and hunting rules and build and evolve your programs. The next thing that I want to show you guys is the second piece of content in this solution. This is the dynamic threat modeling and response workbook. You'll notice I'm still in the workbooks blade. Just search dynamic threat modeling here, and this puts us on to the second component in the workbook. I'm going to click View Saved Workbook to bring up the content. And so when we first come in here, we have a few options that we can configure. These are going to be helpful in building custom reports. So if you want to do this at scale, if you're a large organization or a managed security service provider, an MSSP, you're able to use this feature for Azure Lighthouse. And this is an ask from the community. If you want to understand what you have advertised or what you're consuming in Azure Lighthouse, especially at scale, that's what this tab will provide you with. It'll also let you know who added it and when they added it. So if you're expanding a program across a lot of different Azure tenants, same tenant, cross-tenant, multi-cloud, you're going to be able to get a lot better perspective when new subscriptions are onboarded or your scope is expanding and evolving. And you can look at them all together or one by selecting the subscription and the workspace filters. You also have the ability to change this time threshold. And for threat hunting, this is really going to change between your tier 1, 2, and 3 disciplines. For today, we're just going to look at 12 hours as far as some dynamic threat modeling. And then you'll see me change the time range to 7 days to get a little bit better perspective. As always, we love your feedback. So if you guys are using this offering, please let us know what you think. This comes directly to our product group in Microsoft Sentinel. So every time you complete this, it's about a 3 to 5 minute survey that takes you in to let us know your thoughts of the offering. We're going to get started with dynamic threat modeling, which is the core of the offering. When we come down here, what you're seeing is a dynamic model that's being constructed around the Mitre attack for Cloud Matrix. And what it's doing is searching across your different workloads to tell you in your alerts and your incidents where different attacks have been observed. So there's different components to this, but the key is understanding if I'm being attacked, where am I being attacked within this model, and how exactly is that playing out within my data sets. So the next thing that we're going to do is refine that just a tad bit down to a 4-hour threshold. And we're going to use our demo tenant, which is going to dynamically populate for all the attacks that we've observed in this tenant over the last 4 hours. So the interesting thing about Mitre attack and what I personally feel the industry needs to do a better job in is not just looking at Mitre attack as an aggregate, but using it as a tool to understand what is being attacked and who's doing it. So right now what the model is showing is we are being attacked in several places. Initial access is the most common form of attack. The attackers are knocking at the door, and it looks like they're moving through this cycle into execution, persisting in our workloads, elevating privileges, evading our defenses, discovery, moving laterally, collecting our data, and out the door. So if we want to know a little bit more specifically what they're doing, we start to see our sub-techniques. And this matrix is dynamic depending on what we select. So what we want to do is take that a little bit further. We want to know who is being attacked. So what I'm going to do is select a specific user account, Jeff. And you'll notice that the matrix dynamically ran the query against Jeff's account. So I can see that somebody is accessing his accounts, executing what is likely malware, elevating their privileges, collecting his data, and exfiltrating it. So that provides a lot more of an attack cycle around that singular account. If we want to know any more about these attacks, Mitre is the experts here. You'll notice a deep link for each one of these. And so it brings you to Mitre Attacks website so you can understand what is exfiltration, how is it used. It's really trying to give you the keys and the tools to understand what do I do when I see this. So we don't only need to do it by an account, maybe we care about a host name. So I see an admin host. I'm going to run that, and currently the admin host is not being attacked, at least within the last 4 hours or so. I can run my different hosts to get an idea of how they're doing. But maybe I don't care about just the host. Maybe I want to know where it's coming from. This becomes a lot more interesting because these are the attackers, the IP addresses that are hitting my workloads. And so for this IP address, which is a scripted attack cycle, we can see initial access. It's knocking at the door, it's trying to get into our workloads, and it doesn't appear that they were successful, but we're able to evaluate that. We can look at different IP addresses within our workloads and see how they play out. So when you do have one of interest, I would encourage you guys to use the Sentinel Threat Intelligence Blade to use these IP addresses. And when you find them of interest, this is just another tool to help you research that. We've got a few other options here as well. We can do this by country. So this is dependent on the geo whois location of where it's coming from. And so we're able to get a little bit more context. Now, coming from a country is not good or bad. It's just another point of metadata within our investigation. So if we feel that our business should be residing within one country and not accessed from another, we're able to draw some decisions around that. Now within Sentinel, you're going to be working within your security operations center. You're going to have a lot of different analysts. So you're able to decide which analyst is working this. So if you want to know who has coverage on an investigation, you'll have a list of your analysts as far as who's working these different cases. And lastly, in this section, you're able to sort it by product. So I'm like, what is Microsoft Sentinel doing for me within this attack cycle? These are all the alerts coming from the Sentinel product. But what if I'm using Defender for Cloud Apps? You know, what's that doing for me? It's picking up a defense evasion within the last 4 hours. What if I want to look at Microsoft Defender for Endpoint? You can also see what that's providing to the picture. So if you have a lot of different tools and you want to understand how they are providing value to your threat hunting program, detecting product is going to be great there. Do keep in mind that's not just Microsoft products, that also supports third-party products as well. So we want to make sure that we understand that you really do have an ecosystem that you've invested in and understanding where those different components come to play. So after we've done that, we're probably going to want to dive in just a tad bit deeper to understand how the threat is interacting with our environment. So what I'm going to do is open up this time range a little bit further to 7 days. You'll see in our selector, we've got all of our different Mitre attack tactics in here. So I'm able to select one, some, none of them, and build a custom report. What I'm going to do is go to collection. And within collection, we've got a few different sub techniques. We're just going to go to maybe email collection. We'll notice that we have a few attacks in here. One very important thing, and I'd say one of the primary use cases about these workbooks and this content, is building custom reports that you can print. So anything that I have on screen, I'm able to print it at any time. So if I need an artifact for an investigation, I'm able to hand this off to my security leadership, my regulators, my security operations center analyst team. This is all exportable with a single click. So do keep that in mind as we're working through the demo and the workbook. But back into investigating the collection tactic. I'm now on a control card, and we have a control card for each one of the tactics and techniques. So within techniques, we have an overview of what email collection is. These are deep linked to Mitre attacks, so you can click on these to go to Mitre and learn more. We are using all of the Microsoft products, and that is providing coverage of on-premise, hybrid, cloud, and multi-cloud, including third-party product support. And so when we put together these dashboards, we like to show you what the different products are providing and what data sources are being used. So this is helpful for analysts to understand where they can find this data when they're doing threat hunting. And if you want to bring in more, as soon as you deploy these workbooks, you own the content. You can adjust these within what's best within your team's standard operating procedures and TTPs. We have recommendations. A lot of these are going to tell you how to deploy connectors, how to get up and started, how to employ the recommended Mitre defenses. So for email collection, one of the things that Mitre Attack recommends is implementing multi-factor authentication. You'll see a complementary Microsoft recommendation that will tell you how to implement MFA within your environment. So this is really driving the building and maturing of a threat hunting program. In this example, in the last week, we've been attacked 2 times with the email collection tactic. I can see an Exchange workflow, anomalous mail flow access, and also rare and high-risk Office operations. So each one of these has a deep link, and this takes us into Microsoft Sentinel incidents to where we can investigate and resolve an incident. And so this is going to provide the 5 W's of what we're seeing in this incident, as well as the entities that are involved. I do have an account that's involved in this behavior. If I want to take that further for an investigation, I bring up our visual queue. And in this case, if I have a user that's interacting with this workflow in an anomalous manner, and I want to respond to it, I can use Microsoft Sentinel automation playbooks to respond. In this example, I'm going to block that user, and that single click blocks that account and boxes them out of my workflow. So that's an example of how we can respond with this content. We're going to back this up just a tad bit. You'll notice that we're still in the workbook. We never left the workbook. We never had to re-authenticate because we really want to keep you guys on target with these investigations. The next thing I do in the incident response cycle after I've resolved and remediated this is understand in the lessons learned and after action report, how do I implement defenses to where I don't see this kind of attack again in the future? Anytime that our organization is attacked, we not only want to respond to that, we want to get stronger and better at what we do to make sure that the next attack fails. And so Mitre has been good enough to give us an overlay of NIST 853 controls to attack mappings. So this shows us the blue team perspective of how do I implement defenses to stop these types of attacks. I will encourage everybody go and check out that resource from Mitre. It's really fantastic overlay to tell you what defense mechanisms that you can put in, especially if you're in the government space and familiar with something like NIST 853. And so for this example, we've got some anomalous email access. Access is really what I'm going to kind of queue on here. So you'll notice this is a filter to a lot of different controls, and we do this so you don't have to know KQL. You can look at just a specific control and know how to implement it. So I just filtered it down to access. If I've got 400 level users and I want to go into the queries with our Custo query language, I'm able to do that. We're not going to do that today. What we are going to see is that we have storage account with public access. So if an attacker is collecting email, they may also be interacting with storage accounts. This matches the Mitre overlay within Control AC4. You see in their overlay. And so what I care about now is implementing a defense against this action. When I click remediate, this is going to move us into the Microsoft Defender for Cloud, which is a different product that we have in our suite. Microsoft Defender for Cloud is our cloud workload protection platform, very effective in evaluating where you have gaps or weaknesses in your cloud, and also implementing solutions. So by clicking fix, what I'm doing is making any publicly available storage account no longer publicly available. So these are sample labels. This is CUI, classified information, sensitive information, you name it, you label your data. You probably don't want to have public access for those storage accounts. And so selecting fix will allow us to remove the public access from all these storage accounts and close that vulnerability window for an attacker that may be interacting with your environment. That's just an example of how we can use this. So the most common question that we have in working with this content is, if I have these attacks, or maybe I have no attacks, am I good? Am I covered according to Mitre attack? And my answer generally is it depends on your threat hunting program. Generally, I'm going to say we need to look a little bit further, because you don't know if you have the full coverage on the Mitre attack cycle until you've configured your threat hunting architecture. In come the Mitre attack blade, which is a brand new feature of Microsoft Sentinel that we have that allows you to analyze your existing alerts and your hunting queries, not just what you have, but what you could have as far as expanding your coverage. So when we select this button, this pivots us into the Microsoft Sentinel Mitre attack blade to let us evaluate that coverage. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to my colleague, Marsiano, to tell us how we can use this feature.
Thank you very much, TJ. So I'm going to hijack the display for a second. And now you can see my screen. And like TJ said, coverage is a problem. And assessing coverage in a constantly changing environment where we have our attackers changing the way they're attacking us constantly, and our resources change constantly, and our detections change according to the changes that I mentioned before, requires us to have a tool that helps us manage the security coverage. And Mitre attack really provides us a framework to do so, and we took it to the next level in Sentinel. What you see here is the Mitre attack blade, which offers you a view to the matrix. You can see all the tactics and techniques that we talked about before. And we can see how our existing content in Sentinel is mapped to the framework. So I can see, for example, right now that in my workspace, my scheduled rules that are currently running, my NRT detection that are currently running, and my anomaly query rules that are currently running provide me that specific coverage we are seeing right now. If I'll click on one technique, for example, I can see that in exploit public facing application, I have 10 scheduled rules that are constantly running and 5 anomaly rules. Now, the most important thing is that I can understand where I can find my gaps and adapt my security coverage according to the problems that I see here. So for example, I can see that I have a problem around native API, which I can see that I have no detections on. If I would like to see the full technique, I can click on the link here and it will jump into the Mitre documentation. Going back, I'm going to try and see how can I close that gap. So I have my analytic rule template, of course, but I see it didn't help me, my hunting queries, and my anomaly template. So I can see that, for example, in this specific technique, I don't have any new offering, but I can see that exploit public facing application got an additional 21 possible simulation for coverage that allows me to see and how I can improve it. So if I'll click, for example, on analytic rule templates, I can see that those templates will provide me an answer to the question asked before about which analytical template can help me improve the coverage. Basically, we talked about a lot of problems before, the load the techniques are creating and taking into consideration products. And those are problems that we see here too. We'd like to address them in the future. But the current offering really allows you to manage your security coverage in the Sentinel perspective, focusing on what you have in Sentinel. And it allows you to understand the coverage and adapt it according to your needs. Back to you, TJ.
Outstanding. Thanks so much, Ron. All right, team. I'd like to thank our presenters today, Ron and Ashwin, and the Greater Microsoft Sentinel Product Group for putting this offering together. Call to action today is to get started, spin up a free trial of Microsoft Azure, enable Microsoft Sentinel, access Content Hub to deploy this solution, and navigate over to the Mitre attack blade to learn more about how you can threat hunt with Microsoft Sentinel. So thank you so much for the time today, and have a good day. Thanks, team.